Welcome to the place where paths collide. Crossroad Conversations, let's take the ride. From shadows deep to the light we see. Stories of strength, the voices speak.
What's up, Worcester? This is Jacqueline from Women Strong Recovery and Wellness Coaching, and this is Crossroad Conversations. And I'm so excited. Like I always say, this is season 2 now, episode 1. So I have one of my closest friends, and I think a real advocate in the recovery field and all kind of things that I've been able to personally grow in my own life. And so I hope that our conversation could give you some insight, give you some ways to really look at life a little different and have that little lens shift for yourself. So I am here with Miss Lynne Burns. Hi, Lynne.
Hey, how's it going?
How are you?
Nervous, but
Nervous.
But good other
Okay.
than that. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
okay.
Mhm.
Nerves are good.
Yeah.
So we'll start with, what is it that you do now professionally?
All right. So I am a recovery coach, and I also own my own business, Lynne Burns Recovery Coaching. And yeah, that's pretty much what I've been doing. I coach people one-on-one, which is kind of where it started from, was just an intention to just do that. But then probably about 6 months in January, I just had some space to do some other things. So I started running some hobby workshops for people in recovery, just every other week at Salem Covenant Church in Worcester, they have tons of different recovery meetings and stuff like that that are run there. And yeah, it's just a space for people in recovery to get together and like do. It's mostly been craft stuff because it was winter. I'm hoping to do some different stuff like as the weather warms up. And yeah, just something different than like a traditional recovery meeting where you're just hanging out with other people in recovery. We welcome recovery curious people. So if people are kind of like thinking about making a change to their relationship with drugs and alcohol, it's something that they can check out. And then I've been able to do that like slide and scale, which was really, I wasn't sure like what that would look like, right? Because slide and scale really requires that, there's some sponsored spots for people if they can't afford to pay. And then people just kind of pay what they can afford. And there's a suggestion. So I didn't know, you start out and you're like, well, this can work if everybody does actually kind of give what they can give. But that's been a really amazing situation. And like, I think people, the last two, I think there was like 13 people at one and 14 or 15 at the next one. So it's been a really popular thing. Took April off, went on vacation, and getting back to it this Friday. So we'll be starting up those again. And that will probably continue as long as like people want it, you know. I've been doing some meditation and like mindfulness workshops with you. So that was also kind of not a complete surprise, but I didn't know like how much or how little of that we'd be doing together. So that's been like a really cool journey. We were at Everyday Miracles and Jana's Place, which I'm really familiar with because I have a group of volunteers, Recovery Gardens, that it's women in recovery that go around to different recovery houses and do gardening with participants. And that's been going on for years and something that's been really enjoyable. So it was cool to go to Jana's Place and like offer something, additional to that and be with the women there and get to know them a little bit better. And then, yeah, no one knows us yet because it's been kind of like invitation one at a time. But I'm going to run a hiking retreat in August, which you're going to be. I've invited you to come with the intention, again, to see if slide and scale can work, right? To see if our community will kind of sponsor and support spots so that we can do sliding scale, which just helps, like, to me, I want a diverse group of people to be able to come. And that's like in every way possible. So there's a diversity of age, of race, socioeconomic status, years in recovery, like types of recovery, what people do for recovery. So just really looking at putting together a group of people that are different in different ways, because I think we can all learn from each other. And so we'll see how that goes, and if that's something that's successful, that might be something that I'm able to offer, because hiking's something that's been very important to me. So yeah, that's where kind of I am with all the business stuff. It's still like evolving and changing. I would say still the majority of my time is still spent with the one-on-one coaching. And that's been growing too, which has been really great. Yeah.
I love that. So take us back a little bit, because you say you're a recovery coach. So that to me says that you have some experience in recovery and what that looks like. So when did you start your recovery journey? What has that looked like over the years? Has it changed?
Yeah. Yes to all of it. So it's coming up in June, I'll be 15 years sober, which is incredible. I would say, did I start my sobriety in the beginning? For me, I just stopped drinking. And so I was sober, but I wasn't really doing anything for my recovery other than just not drinking. I was still I was still in bars a lot, going to all the places that I was going, seeing all the people that I was seeing. And I didn't really change a whole bunch in the beginning. So I wouldn't say in the very beginning, like, yes, I was sober. Was I a person in recovery? I just thought, I don't drink anymore, you know? Because I didn't really know, I didn't know anything about recovery. I didn't really know anybody in recovery. I didn't know how any of that worked. And then I would say as time went on, I was suffering more and more and more in a lot of different ways. I had, a family member that was really struggling with addiction, and that was very difficult for me. So I think probably what I would say my first step into recovery was a coworker told me about the employee assistance program. So I was really struggling with this person that I loved, and she was like, you can get a therapist, they'll help connect you with somebody. And she gave me an Al-Anon book because she, there was somebody that she loved that, struggled with addiction. So she had that at home, and she shared that with me. And she said, I think this is something that might be good for you. So I did find a therapist in Worcester, Teresa Rafferty. She's the best. She is so good. She really helped me. She changed my life, I would say, or helped me to change my life. And she was the one who was yeah, go to Al-Anon, right? And so that kind of going to therapy weekly in the beginning, and then starting to talk about, my feelings and listen to other people and hear about their struggles too, which, basically in recovery, anything that stresses you out, these are triggers that can drive you back to drinking or using drugs. And it was I was with therapy and Al-Anon for a while, and then I'll never forget, it was summertime, and I told my therapist, I just want to drink 32 Coronas. And she went, Lynne, that's not normal. And I'm like, no, but it's summer though. She's like, no, that's not normal. And I'm like, well, you know what I mean, And she's just like, no, I think if this is coming up for you, maybe you need to try a meeting. And she sent me to a women's AA meeting. And I'll never forget, I was just talking to somebody about this. I was gardening at the time, that had become one of my obsessions when I stopped drinking. And so if you have slugs in your garden, you pour beer in something and they go in it and they die. It's really gross. But I had a case of Coors Light in the garage. So it had been at 90 degrees for weeks. And I'll never forget, I opened it up and I was pouring it in the dish, and this beer was so skunked beyond skunked, and like Coors Light's not good to begin with. And I was like standing there, and I remember my husband now, Tim, he was like on a business trip, and I was like, no one would know. And I was standing there with this like freaking rotten beer, right? And like that was one of the moments that I think back to, like how disgusting that was. But like that was what was happening for me, and I was just obsessing all the time for probably a year and a half. Like I'd be driving home, it'd be like the Ararat Street exit, and I'm like, if I just get like a 6-pack of Coronas and drink 2 before I get home, like he won't know. Um, which like there was no way I was just gonna drink 2. But also like he probably would have known. It had been a really long, it had been years since I drank. And like that, I just remember that period, so that when she said like you have to get to a meeting, it wasn't the most ridiculous thing that I had ever heard, is what I can say. So I credit her with that, and that it was a women's meeting, which I think was good. And then I went like a couple weeks in, she's like, do you have a sponsor? And I'm like, no. And she's just like, oh, I have somebody I know that I can like give your number. And I'm like, no. Like, I'll find somebody. So it was this little like progression. And I think I needed a little push in the beginning, and it helped me that like a professional person was like, here's what to do. And I did that for a while, once a week. And then I ended up for, how long? It was probably like, I was going daily for maybe 6 months to a year. And at the time I felt like I found that really helpful for me. Because I think like when I finally went, like I was on the brink, like something was going to happen. I was going to use something. I don't know what I was going to use. But like something was going to happen. So that like daily, seeing the same people, I was lucky. There was this 5 o'clock meeting every day. So it's all the same people. Um, and a good group. It was co-ed most of the time, but it was like a good group of men as well. So it was like a very safe feeling for me that I could just see everybody. And then like it changes, then it became like, I don't really want to come on the weekends, and I was real scared at first, because you hear some things about that, like you just have to come every day, right? And I'm like, oh, do I? But my sponsor was really good, because she was just like, you've got to feel it out, right? I don't know what you need, like what do you need? And so she was really great in helping me figure that out. And so like I did step things back. I went to less. COVID happened, so everything got shut down, and I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna die, which didn't happen, but it was really scary, I think, at first, to have this group of supportive people, and then to know, like, I can't see that supportive group of people, not all of them anyway, every day. Um, and I was a scientist at the time too, so it was like very important. We got tested at work regularly, and we were working on like COVID medications and stuff. So it was very important to me too to like stay well, so I could continue to do the work that I was in preclinical safety. So I was like writing up stuff for the FDA and stuff. It was like important, key stuff. And so yeah, we went through that, and that's how I had met you a little bit before that. And then you started doing the yoga at WPI, like I don't know, Institute Park?
Park,
Yeah. So we started meeting there to do yoga, because it must have been like once it warmed up after, I don't remember what months or whatever you started. But I remember that being kind of, I wasn't into yoga, first of all, but it was you. So I'm like, I'll like it because it's Jackie. Um, but I also like the sound of the traffic. For me was also like soothing, because I grew up in the city. So like that was like a nice in to yoga, rather than being in a studio or whatever. And it was a way that we could get together as women and just support each other. We would do a gratitude meeting, I think. And I think that was my first like glimpse into like, okay, I thought recovery was like meetings and therapy, right? I'm like, this is what recovery from addiction is. And then doing yoga with you, I was like, oh, and like maybe it's this too, And then I don't know where sober spin started and all that, but it was also, it's like we used to do spin class and then have the meeting after, right? So there was like these things that started to happen where it like broadened my view of recovery, where I was like, oh, like, you know, going out to coffee with another woman in recovery or just a friend and talking about like what's going on in life. That's recovery too, right?
Yeah.
That connection and that sisterhood. I mean, to me, that's been like everything out of everything that recovery has shown me, it showed me the power of like friendship between women, right? And that's something that I had women friends. They were like few and far between. Um, but really like showing up like that and talking about like, here's the deep, dark shit that's going on in my life. Let me share that with you and you share yours with me and we show up for each other. Like we did that a little, but like not the way I would say that I do it now. Not where like when something happens, my first thought is like, I have to call Jackie. I have to call Emily. I've got these women in my life, my friend Rose, right? Like I've got these close friends who are like my ride or dies. And that's who I'm going to reach out to and like talk to and seek out support from. I'd say that's like very different than the kind of friendship I was engaged with, where it was a lot of like partying together and like it was fun, like a lot of having fun and stuff, but maybe not like the deeper levels of friendship and relationship. And yeah, from there it's really changed. I really don't I still did some AA meetings up until maybe a year or two ago. I facilitate a Women Plus Recovery Space meeting. So it's for women, non-binary people, and transgender people are all welcome. And it's really just once I became a recovery coach, it's like, it's just support, right? There's no framework to it. We have some like very brief set of, you know, rules around like, don't, you know, interrupt people, don't dehumanize anybody, like very basic kind of set of rules that we sort of, you know, stick to, and we're all responsible for like as a group. And so that's really become a staple for my recovery is that group of people that we get together each week and just support each other. Um, and then yeah, the hobby Art Inc. is another like organization that started
Love our
doing.
Inc. star.
Yeah, like I love what they do. And sometimes like schedule wise, it can be, I'm still somebody who like on the weekends, like I just want to do what I want. So there's been some on Sundays where I'm like trying to drag myself there, but I haven't been able to do it. But like that was another organization where it's like, oh, we're gonna like build Legos and like have a recovery meeting, which was like awesome. And there was another one that was like just learning different techniques, you know, to like make home decor, and then we'd make a piece of home decor. And yeah, it's been cool as a recovery coach too, like because my job is to connect people with their own recovery. I know so much more now about, oh, you want a recovery meeting? Okay, there's AA, there's NA, there's Smart Recovery, there's, you know, Dharma Recovery, there's 12-step yoga. There's like every possible thing you could be interested in, like it's out there, right? And that's been so great because instead of there being this one answer where it's like, oh, you're struggling with addiction, go to AA or NA. I can like provide people with like, what do you like? What type of experience are you looking for? And like, let's go find you that. Like, let's find something that actually fits for you rather than trying to shove you into this like tiny box of what recovery means. And then like, hopefully you'll get like a sponsor that's good. You know what I mean? Hopefully you'll meet people that are cool with that. So I think that journey has been really neat. And it's weird. It's like because I became a recovery coach, like it's also enriched my own recovery because it makes me realize like how much there is out there. and then like you coach, at this point it has to be hundreds of people, and every single person's different and they're doing it, right? So when someone says, oh, I want to like try moderation management, and at first I was like, that won't work, right? I've seen people do it, and so instead it can be like, let's try it, you know, or harm reduction. Like, to me as a coach in the beginning, it's like, well, that's not enough just to reduce harm. But it is, right? And that's oftentimes, I think, like, it's just like everything steps in a direction. And that's what recovery is. It's just steps in a direction. And so if we're helping somebody take steps in a direction and they're the tiniest bit safer, happier, healthier than they were, that's the right direction, right? And instead of judging that direction and being like, that's not enough, we can just like meet people where they're at and encourage them and say, of course it's enough. Like, this is just a step in a direction. Like, everything we do, my whole recovery has been steps in a direction. And then it changes and it, you know, morphs and all these things. And you know, that's enriching too, because then you've got all these things that you've done that have helped you progress, and you can always lean back on that stuff if life gets tough and you're like, oh, you know what used to like really help, here's what used to help, maybe I'll go use that tool, you know. Yeah.
So I'm thinking as you're journeying on, like you just took us through like 15 years of like
Yeah.
what the recovery looks like, and which is, you know, I mean, I think for some of us it feels like, how can I even get to 15 years? I can't even get to a day,
Yeah.
right? So what did that day look like for you when you finally was like, this shit ain't working for me anymore? What were those steps? How did that start to like be like, maybe there's something different. Maybe this doesn't serve me anymore. What does that look like? If you can take us back a little bit, you know, to that the 16 years before and the 17 years of like being in your addiction.
I think I always knew it was a problem. Because it was from the day I started. Like, the first time I drank, like, I got blackout drunk. A friend had like his parents were gone. It was like, what do you need? And I was like, a liter Captain Morgan and like a 6-pack of this. And I was like 115 pounds when I was in high school. So I probably didn't need like a whole bottle of Captain and a 6-pack, but I don't know, you know, this is the way that I was kind of, I don't know. I just knew. And it's like the first time I drank, I just knew. I was like, this is it for me. Like, this feeling, whatever this feeling is, this is it for me. Like, I don't feel stressed. I don't feel like, everything just feels fine. And then you feel nothing, right? Which I think was, I was always stressed. I was like this really good student and athlete, and I was like gunning for college and to get in somewhere good and like, you know, be a scientist. And there was all this like, it was like, it felt like pressure. I don't know that my parents were really like, they really, no matter what I did, I've seen with my brother and sister, I don't think they would have had anything bad to say about it. I think it was very much like something I carried, that I was like, I need to do this, you know? And my brother went into the service, so there wasn't like a role model of like, I knew I didn't want to go like die for my country, which like, good for him. I have so much respect, but I was like, that's not my, like, no thanks. Like, that's not what I'm going to do, you know? But that's what he did. So I also didn't have a picture of like, what will college look like? Like, I just didn't know. But there was a lot of pressure with that to like, to get there, you know, and alcohol just like, it took it all away, right? And that's really like, it wasn't super problematic in college because I didn't have a car and I didn't drive. And for me, like, you know, nothing that bad happened. There was a lot of blackouts that went on. I was like on a swim team, so we kind of like, I think that was lucky because we took care of each other. People would make sure you got home, and like, you know, we really did look out for each other, and that's lucky because I think otherwise, things might have not went as smooth for me as they did. But, as soon as college was over, I was dating a guy that owned a bar, and then I was drinking and driving every single night, right? And so from the very beginning, not only behaving in ways that I didn't want to behave, um, like completely out of character, things that just like you feel so much shame about because you're like, that's not even the person who I am. But here I am drinking and doing these things again and again and again. So like, is it who I am? Like that was a hard part of getting sober is like, is that who I am? Because you've been doing the same stuff all this time. But yeah, the drinking and driving definitely, I started I hit um I hit a fire hydrant and said my tire blew out in my car to the cops and to the people who stopped. That's not what happened. I had been drinking at like in the afternoon and I dozed off on the way home because I was pretty drunk, but the cop didn't notice. He brought me to my house. um the next car I woke up in the morning and had red streaks of paint across my car, so I hit somebody's car. I don't know. I don't remember what happened. I was in a blackout. Got that like repaired on the DL from my boyfriend's friend, was a mechanic. So these things like that were very dangerous. Everyone was getting DUIs at that time. There was like so much going on. And I think that for me, like I knew that was like, you can't not know that's a problem. But this weird thing happens with drinking and driving where like when you're going out, you really think I'll stop before I get to that like level. Like I won't do this again. And you think that every time you go out and you believe it, right? Because this is kind of like the disease of addiction. And then you go out and you do it every single time. And like, if you're not that drunk, you might get a ride because you have like some of your brain. But if you're past that point, your brain's offline. And so you just keep doing this behavior, right? And everyone else I knew was doing that behavior as well. So it wasn't like weird to be seeing this every single day. And so like I definitely knew there was a problem and I used to quit for 6 months at a time because it felt like if I could quit for 6 months, I didn't have a problem. So I would quit for 6 months. I'd usually like throw a party the night that I was going to drink again and then something catastrophic would happen on that night again. And I was in that cycle for like years. And I probably quit for 6 months, 4 or 5 separate times. And so it was years of like kind of coming up to that line of like, I think I need to do this. And then like going the 6 months and being like, let me try again, right? Because addiction doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense that you don't do it for 6 months and then the minute you do it, you're worse off than you were when you stopped. Like that doesn't make rational sense to like anybody, I don't think. But that's the truth of what happens when we put it in our bodies, right? So yeah. And then when I finally, probably the last time I had met Tim, which was like the first guy I dated who's actually like a nice person. And I was kind of like, it was, is it on Seinfeld where it's like, choosing the opposite of, it was George Costanza's like, if I do the opposite of what my intuition tells me, it's right because all of my intuitions are wrong. I kind of did that. I was like, I know this guy's so nice and so like such a good person. And everything in me is like, you don't want to date him.
Push it away.
But we had the same make, model, and color of car. So talk about Crossroads conversation, right? Like these crossroads. So I met him at the bar that I was working at. And when I left, I was getting into my black Nissan Altima. And he pulled up in his black Nissan Altima. It was like, nice car. And that like in my brain was like, whatever exists, like this is the weirdest thing in the whole world, right? So maybe you need to give this a chance. And that's what I did. And that shortly after we started dating, I didn't drink for 6 months. And then I did the thing most people do, and I was like, what if I just like, I had already tried, like, what if I just do beer? What if I don't do shots? So you try all these things and they don't work. And my last thing was, what if I just drink on vacation? And I don't tell anybody at home. I tell everybody at home I don't drink, but on vacation, when I'm with Tim, I'll have some drinks, right? So it worked out maybe twice. And then we went to his cousin's wedding. I drank some beers on the first night, fine. The next night, they have like a keg party, which is like my kryptonite. My 21st birthday, my first alcohol purchase was 2 kegs at State Liquor. So it's like, this is like my kryptonite. So obviously, I went completely off the rails. I was sick the whole next day. I almost like threw up at a beach wedding. It was like they were being married on a beach, and I was like, I'm gonna die. Sick all day. And the final thing that happened, we were driving home, and this is actually funny because I didn't remember the whole story till recently. So we're driving home from Maine, so we're in New Hampshire, and Tim tells me, like, if you're gonna drink shots, like, I can't be around you when you drink shots. And in that moment, I was like, I can't drink and promise I'm not going to drink shots, because if I have too much to drink, like, yeah, your brain's offline, right? And I knew that about myself. Like, I can't make that promise. I was like, I just can't drink. And I think, like, it was such a simple thing, but I think I knew alcohol and drugs were a problem for me, but he was the first person that was like, this is a problem for you. And just in that, not that you had to stop, but like, when you go in this direction, like, I'm not going to go in that direction with you. I won't be around you. And for whatever reason, it was really the first time someone had like said that to me ever, which is crazy that I can't believe no one was like, you're crazy, because there was so much, but everybody else was doing what I was doing. So they, no one was saying anything. So in that moment, like, that for me was like that was the final straw. And the funniest part of the story is he does drink and, is a normal human person with it. So like, he can, have a drink on a Saturday night or whatever. So right after we have this conversation, I have to pull into State Liquors so he can buy his cheap, like, on tax liquor. And I didn't think of that part of the story, but I'm like, how crazy, right? Like, I won't be with you if you have shots. And also, let's go buy some booze, right? So that was like, I had just made that decision, and I'm walking around State Liquor helping him pick out, I forget what he drank at the time. So that was kind of funny. But yeah, that was really like, when I coach people, we talk about that. We're like, we don't know what that final straw is. And I think you hear a lot of extreme situations where people have to make this decision to go to like rehab or like these different things, which I didn't even know existed. I didn't know it was dangerous to detox from alcohol. Like, none of this stuff was like in my realm. Like, I just didn't know. But it wasn't like, all the worst things in my life had already happened. And there was some, like, I woke up in the ER one time, right? And the nurse is like, and I didn't ask. I didn't ask what happened because I was so embarrassed. I just knew at some point between the bar and home, I blacked out, and I could feel that I had been catheterized. I was laying in a hospital bed. It was like 3 a.m. Um, And yeah, like, I didn't even want to know, because like, what happened. And so I didn't ask. And then trying to get my roommate to come pick me up, and she's like wasted, so she can't. So I'm like, calling friends in the middle of the night, trying to find somebody to pick me up from the ER so that I can get out of there. Um, yeah, like, that should have been the final straw. Like, that's crazy, right? I was like, I know Pat's Towing picked up my car, because Pat's Towing picks up everybody's car in Worcester. So that's who I called, and I'm like, do you have my car, right? And the guy's like, yep, it's here, and I'm like, is there any damage on it? And he's like, nope. And I'm like, oh, good, like,
Yeah.
great, right? And I went and I ended up asking the guys, like, oh, it was parked too far from the curb, right? So I must have, I don't know, I must have pulled over, but not far enough over. And I just have no idea what even happened, you know? But yeah, it's like plenty of moments like that had already happened. And it wasn't that stopped me. I was out drinking shortly after that, or maybe even the next night. But it's like those words from somebody that was like, everything you're thinking is true.
Yeah.
It was enough, and I was ready enough at that point where I was like, okay, this is it. Like, I can't do this anymore. And I was going to destroy that relationship. Like, I knew that about myself. Like, I can't have a relationship with this person if I'm going to still drink. Like, I'll destroy it. I definitely will.
Yeah, so it sounded like it was that hard, like a boundary he set that
Yeah.
triggered maybe some fear of losing this person.
Yeah. Yeah. I think some of it definitely.
Mm,
And also, nobody had like, you know what people do. It's always like, oh, it's okay.
mm,
You're not that bad. Look at this person. Look at
mm,
you don't do drugs. You're just drinking. Like, it can't be that bad, right? Just drink less. Just don't have shots. Da da da. So I think part of it was like, I'm going to lose this. And the other part of it was like, it was really the first time someone was like, you are right. Like, this is not, you can't make this choice. It's not okay for you. Like, it's always going to go bad, you know? So it was both. It was definitely both. But then, you know, people do say they're like, oh, you can't do it for somebody else. And it's like, it's 100% true. Like, if I was just doing it for him in that
mm,
relationship, I wouldn't have made it. Like, I was also doing it because I had this long history of like, you could have died. You could have killed somebody. You could, you know, all these things like add up where you're like, it's all stacked there, just waiting for you to finally make that decision and be like, this isn't healthy for me, and it never will be, and I'll never have the life that I want to have if I keep doing this, you know?
yeah.
Yeah.
So what did that start to look like? Because I know that you brought us like from, I think it was like 10 years or whatever of
Mm,
like not having an actual like maybe community, a program, or
yeah.
like just kind of like winging it like by yourself,
Mm,
which seems, I know for me, I'm like thinking about, and I think you're right too. You mentioned a lot about just not knowing,
yeah.
like, and especially when someone like all the people around you are doing the same thing,
Yeah.
nobody's talking about it. That
Mm-mm.
means nobody else knows a solution. That
Right.
means nobody else is aware enough
Mm,
to like help, so it's
mm,
just that constant like, cycle that's
mm,
happening, right? And
mhm,
so you kind of get out of that cycle because you're like, okay, I'm gonna stop.
mm,
And then what does that look like as far as how does that feel internally? Like what is happening? You mentioned a little bit about
mm,
gardening, but how did that start to take the place of
mm.
drinking?
Yeah. Yeah, it was bad. I mean, when I definitely still almost blew up on my relationship. When we bought a house after I got sober. It was like the next year, I think we
Mm,
ended up buying a house together. And that first 6 months, I was just like, I was a crazy person. I didn't have like, the alcohol was the solution. So I didn't have anything to, when everyone else was like, oh, it's the end of the week, like, let's go, you know, relax and like let go. Like, I had nothing, right?
mm,
So I was working at a pharmaceutical company at the time in Andover. So I had to be there 9 hours a day, 2 hour commute. Like, I was like a busy, my first time with like a serious job because I wasn't hungover anymore. So
mm,
I could work a serious job, right? And yeah, so that first 6 months when we moved in was like very challenging, definitely. And then I like found gardening, and I was like, oh, I can just like, I didn't know what I was doing, but I was like, oh, I can do this. And I used to use gardening and then exercising kind of, which are great tools in moderation, used in
mhm,
healthy ways, right? Exercise, being outside, having hobbies, all good stuff. But the way that I would do it, I basically immediately was like, I'm going to be a rose gardener, which is like the hardest thing you can grow. And in Massachusetts, it's basically just like a losing battle every day of your life. So I'm like, I'm going to do that. I'm going to garden the hardest thing I can possibly garden in the whole world. So that was like my starting point. And I just made 700 garden beds. I would garden from in the morning on Saturday and then until it was dark in the summer. So it would be almost 9 o'clock and I'd be like cleaning up. Um, I have some attention issues. So also it's funny because like I would have stuff all over. We have like an acre of open space and I would be like darting around to different sections, forgetting what I started and like then remembering. It was like it was ridiculous. Absolutely exhausted. My back was always kind of messed up from bartending and stuff. So I'd be like in a lot of pain and still just like, I need to fill this time because now I have these weekends and even during the work week and like I have all this time, I don't know what to do with all this time, right? Um, and then, exercise was like another thing that I started to do 5Ks. I was always a swimmer and I hated running. But I was like, well, this way I can like race with people, which like I like to beat people, so that's kind of fun. And like when you run, everyone talks about a runner's high. It's actually a thing. Like once you do it enough, it feels really freaking good. And so I also started using that. And then a friend wanted to do a half marathon. And so I was doing 6 mile runs, 8 mile runs, 10 mile runs, just like building up. Um, and in that process, I hurt my hip so bad, I needed to do like 2 rounds of PT because I just wouldn't stop. I'm like, this feels good. Like, I'm not stopping, and I was an athlete, a swimmer. Like, I pretty much destroyed my shoulders swimming. So, this was just another way to get those endorphins and that rush. And it was the closest thing I could feel. I was also drinking like 75 Red Bulls a day. So that was good. Anything to feel different than the way that I felt, because I felt like I was crawling out of my skin. I was agitated. Um, I was not well as a person. I was just not drinking as a person. And so those were kind of the things that I say I can use anything that's the healthiest thing in the world and like turn it into a bad thing by not using balance. And today, like that's when I talk about recovery, it's all just balance. Like that's the beginning and end of life is like, how do I live life in this balanced middle ground um, and love it, right? Because I'm not getting way up here anymore and I'm not getting way down here anymore, but I'm in this middle space. Um, and I just thought that was boring. Like, I didn't think, as soon as I got sober, I went skydiving. I went swimming with sharks, which was supposed to be cage diving, but you just jump in the ocean in chummed water with sharks. Fantastic. I was like, this is great. This is living. Like, I'm not like the more extreme, the better, right? So just like looking for ways, like, I can't feel anything. How can I feel something? Oh, I can jump out of a plane. Oh, I can jump into shark infested waters. This feels like living to me. But it was because with alcohol and drugs, right? Like your dopamine's getting so high, anything natural doesn't feel like anything. And so the beginning, it was just like, how can I feel something? How can I feel something? Um, and the crazy part that I get to share today with other people is like when we live in this middle space, the natural highs and lows that we get, the lows don't get so low, which is fantastic. But the highs that we couldn't feel before, if you're staying in this middle space, you start to feel them. And these small things in life that they didn't register in my body before, like now when I see a beautiful sunset, I get choked up, right? And I get this feeling of awe, which is just like, it's huge. It's huge. It's moving. And that's what you can go look for, right? I can be like, oh, I can go do this hike and I can see this animal, or I can see this wildflower, or I can see a waterfall. And these feelings of awe and wonder and connectedness can feel like these really, really high highs that I used to only be able to access through using like a drug to get me up that high. When you remove that long term, you can find other ways of getting up that high. And then it's beautiful because it's accessible to you all day, every day of your entire life. And it's not unhealthy for you. So,
Yeah. I'm just thinking about like, because, you bring us through this journey of the gardening and like the
yeah.
obsessiveness. And I was just listening to something this morning and it was talking about how do we do the things we love and what is it that gets us to that? And it's grit and passion.
Mm,
But then she was talking about two different passions. So it's like that harmonious passion and then the
mm,
obsessive passion.
yeah.
So I'm thinking of like you're having like I can see it because I know you do recovery gardens. So churning your obsessive passion
Mm,
into a more harmonious passion. How do you start to do that in your journey where now you're seeing like, okay,
mm,
I need something else. You talked about going to therapy. You talked about like Al-Anon and then like, okay, now we're going into your getting a little deeper into like actually
mm,
your stuff, right? Because I think at first it's like maybe someone else is triggering some things in you.
yeah.
And so you start to work on that because you're like, maybe they're the problem, or,
Mm,
um, and then you start to get into your own personal recovery, which brings you into meetings, brings you into the women's meeting, which is where I met you
mm,
almost 7 years now because
yeah.
Denzel will be
He's a
7
baby.
in June.
Yep.
So I meet you at this women's meeting and I went because I was like, oh my God, okay, I'm working during the day and I needed something else. I couldn't really necessarily go, like everything changed because now I have a
Yeah.
baby. And so I was like, this was perfect. I was like going right after work, picking him up from my mom's and going, and I met you
Yeah.
there. And I
Mhm,
remember um, kind of being like, I don't know about this girl. Like
mm,
it was like just different, right? Like,
yeah.
but then somehow I think you just invited us out to eat. Like you were doing a dinner, like with they would go after the meeting and go
Yeah.
out to eat. So I
Yeah.
started to do that. And from even me, it building up, it was like, where am I going? So
Yeah.
we started, I think, to realize maybe we had some things in common,
Yeah.
which was the service work.
Mm,
So where did that start to come into play into your
mm,
recovery, and how did that shift the way that you showed up for yourself and others?
mm. Yeah, so that it probably started like growing up, we used to do um kind of like walks for cancer and stuff.
Mm,
I had two grandparents die of cancer when I was a kid, and then one of heart disease. So there used to be like this 24-hour, like you'd camp there as a team and everything. I remember doing that, and you'd raise a little bit of money for it. And that really pretty much stopped while I was drinking. And then towards the end, I started doing, I remember one of the bartenders I worked with got breast cancer,
mm,
and she lost her hair, and I cut my hair really short, and we were doing things to like raise money and stuff for breast cancer. And I think that's probably when like that started, like that connection. So from there, like I ended up doing the 60-mile 3-day breast cancer walk with a friend twice, which is also like you camp. It was just really, and it's my friend Rose. So, like, I think it's kind of how we became best
mhm.
friends because you're walking for like 72 hours straight together. So, like, that'll bond you, right? So, we did that twice. And then it was like it started to stretch out. So, I think like it started as like, oh, cancer, this is this thing that's meaningful, like let's raise money for that. And then we probably at ASI when I worked there, I went to a soup kitchen. They used to pay for 2 days a year. you could do like community service and they would pay you. So I went to a soup kitchen in Lawrence a couple times, and I'll never forget there was a guy with us, and he was calling everybody ma'am and sir, and he was really uptight. And he was nervous, I think. I don't think he had been around maybe like lower income people or something. And that's like for me, you know, we grew up as lower income people. And so it's something that I don't feel uncomfortable. I've just like, it's people, right? So people is people is people. So I remember just kind of like chit chatting with the people and smiling and joking because I was like, that's what people want. They want somebody who's like connecting. And I think that triggered like, not everybody can do that. Some people do feel uncomfortable. Some people can't connect, but I don't feel that barrier. So I think that's kind of what started me thinking like, this is my job I got to go be with people and help people that are struggling in our community because, you know, I can do it and I like it.
Yeah.
And then my friend Rose, she actually knew Nikki Bell, who was like just starting up Lyft. And I think it was like their first drop-in center. And her son Sebastian was a baby when I met him. So he's got to be, this was years ago. I don't even know, so long ago. But I remember the scene. It was like a center where it was just a church basement, and women who were being prostituted, you know, could come and access resources, right? And get clothing. They could hook them up with different resources if they needed them. And really what we did was like, you know, bring pizza. We would bring clothes that we had from our own closets. I remember starting to like reach out to people and like saving, you know, hotel toiletries and stuff. And I had this DSW credit card. So my points were all in like shoe coupons. So I could buy like, they had these massive coupons at a DSW too. So you'd buy like $200 worth of shoes, you'd pay like $120, and then I'd have like $80 in shoe coupons because they had a bad system. Like you could just work the system so bad. So I would just bring new shoes to these women because for me, like you'd see all these donations of used things, and like in my heart I'm like, they deserve what I have, and I have new things sometimes, so they deserve new things. I used to bring bags of like makeup because I love makeup even though I don't wear much of it. Like I would get like Ipsy and Glam Bag or something, so all the extra samples I would have, I would bring them. And I'll never forget, one of the women was looking through and she looked at me and she said, I feel so alive right now. And for me, that was just like, it really triggered this thing that's like, I don't just want you to have my used, thrown away things. I want you to have what I have. I want you to have mascara. Somebody asked me once, they're like, do you hug the women there? And I'm like, of course I hug the women there. Like, what do you even, mean? Like, that's not, human beings need hugs, they need touch. And like, these women are not getting hugs and touch in a positive way ever. Like, of course I hold them and hug them and talk to them. So there's all these like, yeah, it just felt so amazing to be there. And then all the other women that were there helping, it was just this beautiful environment of like, yeah, us just showing up. We kind of just hung out and we chit chatted and we learned about their lives. So that's like where things would really start. I mentor for the science fair. Um, I was at Worcester East. Now I'm doing it at Sullivan Middle. So that's been a way I really, I went to inner city public school, like to give back to these kids that just grew up like I grew up, and tell them, I got into WPI. I got into these places, like you can too if you just keep working on it. Like you'll get there, and you'll get scholarships. So keep doing it. And then AbbVie also, like after everything happened with George Floyd, we started up, it was like the equity, oh, I forget what the initials were or whatever, but it was a bunch of like community service groups. So I like co-chaired the Community and Connections group. And so we were able to we did like our Worcester Public Schools don't have like enough school supplies and stuff, right? It's like left to the teachers. They get a certain amount, and then beyond that, the teachers really pay for this stuff. And so, like, doing these big collections and being able to explain to people who are living in Shrewsbury, like, why don't the kids have supplies in Worcester? And I'm like, well, you see,
Yeah.
you can't just ask every parent to pay all this incredible amount of money and bring all these supplies. Like, we have to provide them for the kids, and they only get so much. Um, and then some internship programs with high school kids. And then there was internships with college kids at Abbey, and really saying like, we have this whole community of people who their families are here, and like they probably are vested in having jobs right here in Worcester, some of them. And like we can start connecting with these kids at science fair in middle school, and then like connect with them on a higher level in high school, and give them internships and get them these really well-paying, college internships, instead of, the people who work here that are scientists, instead of their kids accessing these higher paying internships. Like, you can get these kids in these families where like getting paid 20 something dollars an hour for the summer internship during college is going to help pay for their school. It might help support their family a little bit, right? And then give them pathways into these really incredible, like high paying, stable, great health insurance, like positions right here in Worcester. So yeah, that kind of, I would say through work is like where it really started to roll, because work did support community service. And there was a playground. We used to do playgrounds, build playgrounds in Worcester too. Um, and that was one, a really good experience to be able to go to some of our Worcester public schools and like help do cleanups and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, and then also be able to tell, I'll never forget, someone was saying something negative about like Chandler Elementary School, and I just looked at them and I said, I went to an elementary school just like this. And they were like, oh. And I'm like, yeah, like, you think I didn't because I'm working with you as a scientist. That's stupid. Like, anybody can be a scientist. Any of the kids here can be a scientist. Just because they're low income students doesn't mean they can't reach the heights that we've, like, I'm an example of it. Like, we can reach any heights we want if we have the support around us. So that's been nice too, to be able to show people a picture of somebody who I'm like, I didn't, grow up like you did, but like we both ended up in the same space, right? So I think that's helpful to show people that too, and show them what the possibilities are when kids like me like get some help. You know?
I think it's important too, because you're willing to like share that part
Yeah.
of you.
Yeah.
That's helpful. Like, it's not like, oh, I just got out of this just for the sake of me. But like, also you got out of it, great. And you're being able to provide a life for yourself and different experiences. But you're also willing to go back to that and say, I also was this, and I was able to climb out of that, which I think is so important when you're thinking about, who do we share this information with? Who gets access? What does that look like? And being able to say, like, I just had someone message me last night and I was bawling, and, they were like, I just want to let you know that I got 10 years sober, and you helped me so much just because you were loud about your recovery, about your process, about what's happening. And, those are the things that you're like, okay, like you can take pride in. You're like, I know by like not like taking the shame out of my story,
That's right.
I'm able to like usher someone else into a better part of their journey and their story. So I love that you're able to continue to give back, to go back and say, this is where I was. It doesn't define me. I also was able to carve out this path. Right? Because I think if we don't see it and people aren't willing to share that, and there is still shame in that, we're not able to move the next generation forward.
Yeah. And I think it also, like, the way we come up, it gives us tools that other kids aren't learning. And that's what I've tried to share too. These kids have grit. These
Mm.
kids are walking to school every day and taking care of brothers and sisters sometimes because their parents are,
Working two,
doing the
three
nurse.
jobs.
Yeah, yeah. And like, not getting involved with gangs. Like they're around gun violence. Like there's all these things I experienced as a kid where I'm like, these things built the person I am and they gave me grit. And these public school kids have grit. And that's a gift, right? I might not, I got made fun of at work sometimes for the way that I talk or that I don't use fancier words or like this and that. Like, there's always going to be that transition that's hard, but like, just be you and like, you, I'm a smart person and I have grit and I'm a hard worker. And eventually people will see that and they, don't give in to the pressure. They'll let it slide, right? And I'll never forget, like, WPI has the science fair. So when I was at Worcester East, we showed up on the bus and the kids walked out and they looked at the school. And one of the kids looked at me and he said, "It's not fair, miss." And I got all teary eyed and I'm like, I know it's not fair, But the other side of it is that then I get to tell them I went to a school just like you and I applied here and I got in and they gave me a huge scholarship if I didn't choose to come here, but like you can get there. So I know that where you are now, the ceilings are falling down at Worcester East. It's like yeah, there's some things, right? But like you can get here. We're gonna help you get here. Um, and the great thing that I've seen there too, when we started out, it was like, I think the kids got $12 per project is all they got from like the science fair. And we're like, okay, so the people who were mentoring, like we paid for a bunch of stuff. We got coworkers to help us pay, right? So we got all the supplies. Now, pretty much, we're ordering everything and it's supported by the science fair. And this is huge because the kids are really, they're with other schools that, the kids do have parents maybe that can buy them all these like advanced kits that they can use and these different things. So to see that we're responding to it in a way and say, no, we really do need to support. We need to make sure any student can do within reason any project they want. We shouldn't have, okay, these kids are from a lower income area. Okay, your projects, you only get this much to do them. So you really can't do anything that interesting. So that's been really nice to see too, is that that's changed because in the beginning, I just remember looking at the teacher and being like, $12, like that's the board you put.
Yeah.
You put the stuff on and these kids are like, oh, I want to do this CRISPR technology and this and that. And you're like, these kits are hundreds of dollars. Like we can't, we have to do things. We've got all these kids. We need to at least do things in reason. So things do change if we keep pushing, I think, and talking about what the needs are.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. And I think, just being able to even show, like for you, like how that starts to transform your own recovery and how you
Yeah.
start to show up for yourself, but then the I always talk about the ripple effect
Yeah.
that it has in community, in family, in in maybe not even knowing that at the moment,
Right.
but eventually little moments like, oh, because we advocated, because we were saying, we were showing up and because we did certain work, now they have this budget where they can see more because it's limited to be like $12.
Yeah.
That's you're setting
Ridiculous.
in a limited belief system still.
Yeah.
Like you're creating that and keeping that. And then it's like, how do we start to get out of these limited beliefs
That's right.
if we're only given $12, right? Like we
Right.
need to start somewhere else. So I love that, just that advocating part of being able to be like, how does this add up? Like where do we, expand? How can we grow in that way?
Yeah.
So what does it look like as you start to, you're doing this, the science, which I love, with the kids and the youth. I always say, like, when we're doing some, going to see certain things with the youth, we're like, that's really, I mean, what are we all doing this for? It's
Exactly.
to raise up these children so that they are the next generation. They are
Yeah.
the ones doing the work and seeing bigger, doing bigger.
Mm.
Um, so I love that. But what else? Um, you know, I think we talked about yoga and coming to my yoga class, and we would do gratitude, and I think that was really right. COVID happened and everything shut down, and
Yeah.
I think the beautiful thing about that is like, yeah, we had meetings, but then we also were like, oh, we don't want to die, so let's how do we shift this experience for ourselves? And we had a lot more tools than I think a lot of our other peers did, where we
Mm.
seen an increase actually, right? Teachers getting like alcoholism
Yeah.
became a
Oh my
thing, right?
God.
Like all of a sudden, like these things exasperated
Yeah.
in the community where I think for us,
Mm.
we already had tools and we just learned to shift.
Right.
So having that shift in doing yoga and a gratitude meeting, going to the
Mm.
park, creating that community, um, you started to shift into recovery gardens. So talk to us a little bit more on what that looked like. As we talked, I mentioned earlier about the passion, right? That
Mm.
obsessive passion. And then I think if you think about your gardening as like, oh, every weekend you're like 12 hours out there
Yeah.
and shifting into this service work, recovery gardens, how did that start to come into play? And how did you start to expand that work?
I think in the beginning, it probably was a little still
Mm,
obsession minded, definitely. Um, and I think part of that is because it's coming from a space where, like, I just never believed I deserved rest.
mm,
I thought if you rested, you're lazy, you're unmotivated, all this other stuff. And so everything I did, I think, even work, was always like, at 110 miles an hour. And how much can I give? How much can I, achieve all these different things? How much can I help, right? I'm going to help and help and help
mm,
and help. And I think like one of the things over time is, why are we here if we're not here to enjoy this?
mm,
And I think a lot of us don't grow up from a space of where we're meant to be here and enjoy this, right?
mm,
Um, Even the religion I was part of, it was like your job is like to sacrifice and suffer until you die and then you get your eternal reward.
mm.
Like, well, that's shitty. Like, no, thank you, right? Why
Take
would
me off that
I
list.
know, like, cross it off. Like, no thanks. So I don't think I ever thought my job, like my purpose is to like enjoy any of this, right? And I think what happened with Recovery Gardens, luckily, I had volunteers like
Mm,
you and some of the other women. So I would roll in after getting all the plants and packing everything into the car, and then you unpack everything. But then the people who showed up and volunteered, you're chilling. You're like, hey, how you doing? Da da da, chit-chatting, And I think something about witnessing that and seeing that the whole point of this is connecting.
mm,
It's not really about we're going to beautify and put flowers everywhere. It's about the process of like, we're going to do something new together. We're going to grow and cultivate something. If you mess up, you mess up. I'll bring more
mm,
next time. Like, let's eat If you don't want to garden, come eat snacks and have drinks, right? This real openness to just like, the point is actually enjoying each
mm,
other. And I think by watching my volunteers like you and so many other women, it did show me that, right? So it's still like a little rushy, but it's not as much like I need to bring every single flower of like everything's got to be perfect, all this stuff. It's really like, oh, I'll bring a few flowers. We're going to have to weed. Snacks is the most important, always. And then, like, you just show up and you chill together, right? And that's, I think, what the women are going to, remember the most anyway. Um, and so that I think I've been able to carry into a lot of other things, is like, because I can feel in my body what it feels like to go at 100 miles an hour and be stressed the whole time and give. And then I know what it feels like today, especially recovery coaching helps because, like, you show up, you have to be chilling when you show up, right? And just to spend that hour with the person and just talk. And the conversation goes here, there, and everywhere. You come in with a point, but like maybe you don't get to the point, or maybe they have something else going on and you veer off in that direction. And the most important part that I found is like you're basically enjoying each other and you're connecting. And so, and when I'm connecting, I feel really good. I feel really happy. And so it doesn't feel like work. It doesn't feel rushed. I get to enjoy the experience of it. And even if someone's in their worst struggle and I'm supporting them, I get to feel and enjoy what it feels like to like be there for somebody who maybe they don't have anybody else, right? Like maybe I'm it right now. Um, and so that's been really an amazing journey of like, if the point isn't to enjoy this, then what am I going to be in recovery for, right? And so today I rest when I need rest. I don't push myself to this like magical idea of like, here's where I need to get to do the most to like for any of this to be worth it. Instead, it's like every little thing we do is something. And maybe I'm leaning into mentoring the kids right now. So now I'm not leaning into, getting stuff for the women's shelter and showing up, right? But then mentoring ends for the kids for a while. Okay, now I can lean into this other thing that's important to me. Now I can lean into like, and it's the same with business, right? What is there time for? What can I lean into? And that's like, that's changed everything, I think, because it doesn't feel stressful and urgent all the time. And I think it used to feel stressful and urgent, even helping other people in recovery. Like, if I don't help them, they're gonna die, they're gonna overdose. Da, da, da. If I roll in there with that, I'm not helping anybody because I'm in fear, because, I'm stressed. I'm trying to shake them into doing what I want them to do so that they can get this is where you need to get. I'm gonna tell you and then I'm gonna get you there, right? I'm gonna drag you there if I need to. And it's like, no, I can show up relaxed and happy and supportive and loving. And what better thing to show the person than like, this is what life can feel like as a person in recovery. Right? Take a little bit, but that's been like a huge shift, and that allows me to exist in my passion and feel aligned instead of feeling like I'm chasing my passion, which if I'm here to do that, it's not going to feel like chasing it. I'm just going to embody it and I'm going to live it and breathe it. It's going to be the most natural, aligned feeling in the world if I'm living in that purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That, and I think obviously we resonate with each other a lot. I think that's what has made our friendship strong, and then shift and be able to work with each other now. And I think you just hit it on the head when you're like, I can't make someone do X, Y, and Z. But what I can do is be in my process.
Yeah.
The best way I know how. And be that example of what life can be, like truly and authentically, right? Like there's ebbs and flows. There's gonna be hard shit, like, and that's not promised to go away. But what is, if we keep moving forward, is the ability to handle the things. Right? Is like, how do we show up in it? How do we, reach out for help? How do we, allow ourselves to start to create relationships, different types of relationships that we can call on, right? Like, so you're someone I call on for a certain thing in my life, and then I had like my feeding best friends,
Yeah.
that I would call for them. When
can't
they're
help.
like, right? Like, so, but we're creating all these different
Yeah.
relationships and understanding that, like, what brings me joy. You mentioned joy and enjoyment out of the work that I'm doing. And then how can I think it's like show, people that this also can be for you, right?
Right.
When you're ready.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you're ready.
Yeah.
Um, and there's no set way, right?
No, no. And I think from our side, it's like, what can I do? Like, I can love everybody.
Yeah.
Like, I think if we all boil down everything to anything, it's we can all go out there every day and I can love every single person
Yeah.
in this world to the best of my ability. And when I do a bad job, I can take ownership of that and I can apologize if I need to or whatever. But that's like really when it comes to recovery, like if we're not out there just unconditionally loving people, whether it be my friends, my family, my recoveries, like I'm not doing my job then,
Yeah.
right? I'm judging, I'm pushing, I'm doing all these things. And it's like that's not living in my purpose. My purpose and all isn't all of our purpose just to love,
Yeah.
right? Um, and when you do and you can do it, it does feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And much different than holding on so tight and being like, something bad's going to happen to you. You got to come with me. You have no choice. Like, that's a totally different existence, I think. And I've been in that existence. And I'm going to leave that behind.
Yeah.
Yeah. I tried it. It's not the best existence. Yeah.
I love that. So that was, I think that that's a beautiful place to end.
Yeah.
It's just love. Like, we're here to just love onto one another in the hopes that we can all enjoy a better life.
Yeah.
And I think that that's really the essence of what we're doing here. It's just trying to be better, do better, live better, and love better.
Yeah. Even people we don't agree with, we don't understand. There's no way I'm doing anything positive by hating them, judging them, any of that, right? It's like the best possible scenario is that I show up with love and that maybe that person will feel that love and like come around to being loving too, right? And I think right now in the state of the world and the way everything is, it's really hard to do. But I do think that's the way forward because otherwise, like, we're pretty screwed, right? If it's like, I'm going to be loving except for you, it's like, that's not what our job is here. Our job is I'm going to be loving, period. And I think that could really, I think that could move the needle and get us into a better place as a society if we just landed there. I'm here to love, period, right? Even when it's hard, even when I feel like the person's wrong or they're not getting it or whatever, I can still show up in a loving way. And I've seen it work, right? When you recovery coach, you're with everybody. When you're in recovery meetings, it's every type of person. And love always, there's always positive things that come from showing up with love, right? So
You just love without condition.
that's right. Unconditional love is where it's
Unconditional
at. Is it hard? Oh my God, it's so hard.
Go to
But
therapy.
we keep working. We go to therapy.
Go to therapy.
Sometimes you need a little vent with a friend, and then we come back to love and understanding, right? And we keep working on it, and we recognize we're probably not going to be perfect at it, and I never am. But I can take ownership when I'm not perfect at it.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I love it. I love you.
I love you so much.
Well, let us know where we can find you. I know you have your own business and website.
Yes. My website is recoverycoachlynne.com. I also have just like my Lynne Burns Facebook page and then Lynne Burns Recovery Coaching on Instagram. And yeah, that's probably the best. My phone number is all over everything. So for me, it's like if you ever just reach out, right? And then that's where all the stuff about Instagram and Facebook is where I post the stuff about the hobby workshops and all of that. And hopefully next year I'll be doing more with the retreats, and that will be more public than just trying to find people to invite and create the first one and see how we do it. So
It'll be great.
yeah.
It'll be good. All right. Well, that's it. Crossroad Conversations. This is season 2, episode 1 with Lynne Burns. And so you can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, share, like, comment. We are a nonprofit. What's Up Worcester is a nonprofit. So any donations is always welcomed and appreciated as we move forward in all of these conversations. It's helpful. So bye.
Welcome to the place where paths collide. Crossroad Conversations, let's take the ride. From shadows deep to the light we see. Stories of strength, the voices speak.